Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for your Commander-in-Chief of Abbotsford. You know why I'm going for the city? I told you all my experience working for Intertech, Cressy, Mondial, Wall Financial, above all, Mike Dakota Avani. Mike taught me so much. I'm going into forensic audit the city on what Darren Braun, the Economic Development Officer, the Mayor's own son, he had in charge of lifting in lands in jobs. Henry figured he would never get caught. Big, powerful money that he was always spoiled, the train tycoon, connections to his loyal friend Ed Fast, the federal conservative, Mike DeYoung, and owning the Abbotsford Police. A perfect plan, all perfect. Nobody would ever catch Henry. How many dirty people he could have threatened, Greg Toes, the chamber, the newspaper, and everything, blocking a system. But Henry's own son brought his empire, his friends, and a police department on the ground. Make no mistake that the Abbotsford men and women in the police department of Abbotsford have to go, can't be trusted, and have to be named and their faces shown everywhere. To how many victims there is out there. This took the cooperation, the loyalty, the smarts, and the knowledge of the Mission RCMP to piss on the Abbotsford Police Department. Fleeing Bob Rich and Mike Scher figuring the captain, I'll flee, I'll get out of here, and I'll never come back. It's my gold. My gold as a victim with the Abbotsford's rest of the victims to bring Mike Scher back here on his feet, screaming and crying. The loyalty that he bought in the N.D.P party was unbelievable. David Eby knew he was coming up the ladder, so he kicked Mike Scher out of here. You could see him hire Henry Brown in the interior. You could see him point Bob Rich. Then he took Mike Scher and he put Colin Watts here from Victoria, figuring squashing it. Why are I here today on this? Why here? This little job site, BC Transit, opened the door to kickbacks, fraud, manipulation, council collaborating in the House, winning decisions, rigging elections, and above all, a dirty, filthy police department of Abbotsford. Henry's son, Darren Braun in front of his dad, showing council in his dad's house, winning the decisions. Greg Toes, the Chamber of Commerce, all the connections to Ed Fast, the newspaper, and above all, the police department. All the private meetings on his farms. Rob Funk, the CEO of Diverse, tied to Devon Roy, Ed's son-in-law, everything. Henry left that unprotected, and the RCMP knew that when they asked me to run for mayor. Instead of the Abbotsford Police following protocol, which today they would not be in this scandal, decided that these weak, pathetic garbage men that beat up and used manipulation through the back doors were going to cover it. Intimidations to run people out of town wasn't going to do it. It was the ties to the former Premier Bill Vanderzam, my good friend John Rustad, and everything. Opened a door that is unbelievable. Not even the scandal down in the United States on the Epsteins is as dirty as this. So today I want to give you a special podcast of what's been taking place and why I was traveling the province. You knew I did a podcast from Merritt because the mine is up in Merritt. There is three BC Conservatives and only three, and let me make that clear. Dallas Brody, Yuri, and Caroline Finley are the true Conservatives left in this race. The rest of them are Liberals. Today, I want to show you something and I want to outline this. There's a picture going all around on Facebook of Peter Milobar and Todd Stone. Let me tell you, when you put your foot in everybody's office like Henry showed, Darren Brown showed me, on EDAs, on boards, and everybody. Todd Stone was Kevin Falcon's party whip for the BC Liberals and his cabinet person. Peter Milobar's taking pictures and going around with him as a Liberal to get the votes and the construction companies in behind him. Kevin Falcon worked a deal with David Eby to put his cabinet people, Todd Stone, in front of all the mines of BC. That's why I'm here today, because this is what caused a big disturbance. And I would like Todd Stone. Peter Milobar's coming to Abbotsford to do a fundraiser. to be shooting his ass right across here. Instead of Henry telling him, I could get you, I need you in for the Premier to cover it, he should stop here and talk to the true Conservatives that live on that mountain and the EDAs of the federal Conservatives that had their houses wrecked and threats. That is where Peter Milobar, if he truly changed from a Liberal to the Conservative, would do there. Instead of crawling up Henry's backside. I'm after the full weight of the law with all them true Conservatives. So what are I here today? Let me explain something. Bruce Bannon ran for the BC Conservative leadership after John Rustad stepped down and the Conservatives were in the scandal. Bruce went behind, as an Abbotsford mayor, former mayor, well-tied, went behind Uri and endorsed him. Bruce's Conservative friends now support Uri. Uri came with 17,400 and some strangling votes to be. If the election was called today, Uri would be the nomination for the BC Conservatives. So let me tell you what you got to do in layman's terms. Here it is. You have to go out if you want that job, and you got to bring the BC Conservatives, set the bar so high to bring X amount of money. Okay, 200,000, and you got to bring new members to the party. Well, Caroline Elliott, Kevin Falcon's sister-in-law, Peter Milobar and Ian Black believed they could do it because they had the sitting former Liberals that he could phone. Since they crashed, the party never reached out to him. They phoned him, can you back me for the Conservatives? They didn't do it. Allowing Uri to lobby the grounds and work the streets and have the most votes. They couldn't pull on their old base and their contacts to get up because Kevin Falcon crashed the Liberals. He never phoned them. And now, guys, listen. My friend, my sister-in-law's running. I really need you to get by members. They didn't. They said, you turned on us, they turned on you. And it was a foregone conclusion. If I was their advisor, I would have told you, you don't got a snowball's chance in hell to beat Uri because your own true Liberals that you left dead in the dirt are not going to come forward now. So here's the problem. Now you have a leadership voting, and the people that went out and got that, so say, I'll give you a statistic. Say Peter Milobar's got 2,000 members signed up. Caroline Elliott's got 1,500, and Ian Black with Ed's got 800. And Caroline Finley, a true Conservative, not tied to them Liberals, has got about 8,000. But we know Uri with Dallas Brody and Caroline Finley have the most votes. Uri does, 17,000. So here's what happened. The BC Conservatives headquarters is all run by Liberals. All of it. All of it. And the question is, why is Todd Stone, a Liberal, in charge of David Davies' BC N.D.P mining across BC? That's their Pamela election should be. If I was Pam, I'd be saying, I am your true N.D.P, not this Todd Stone guy. And he's working with Peter Milobar. And David Eves should be firing Todd Stone, standing beside Peter Milobar. I would be the boss and say, what the heck are you doing, Todd? You're running my mines. You're not supposed to be tied, and you're sitting with Peter Milobar rubbing his backsides because they were working together. And David Eby is in so much stress, he's not even shielding these backroom door things. And when Dallas Brody sees that, she'll put it together and say, hey, you cut the bloody deal. Then David Eby talks about treason. Remember the treason? The people went to Donald Trump in the States, and he talked about that former Premier of BC in their minds. Caroline Elliott goes to another province to get a campaign team with Kevin Falcon's people to run her party, which is unacceptable. Foreign interference from another province can be very manipulated, and you can do dirty things, and you can't be charged here by law enforcement because you're operating outside your territory. It's like phoning out from South America to do stuff from there to here, which would be demanding that David Eby say Elections BC disqualified Caroline Elliott, which nobody would have a beef with that, especially Caroline Finley. And she's going to go under investigations by Elections and the RCP. He can't, because here he knows that Todd Stone, his president big dog of the mines, the Liberal party whip of Kevin Falcons, is with Peter Milobar, and he couldn't call that out, leaving himself unprepared. You do not see Pierre Poilievre or Bruce Bannon or the true Conservatives with Liberals, but you see Peter Milobar. And I would tell you on Monday morning, before Monday hits, David Eby should have already fired Todd Stone for standing and initiating pictures that I'm supporting Peter Milobar. That he should have never been in that picture. He should have never been hanging with Peter Milobar. And he's ahead of the mind because the Liberals and the N.D.P will work together. Now here's what took place. You got to diminish Uri of 7,000 votes. You got to kind of block him. Remember, Henry taught me well through Darren Braun. He didn't let me have the Chamber of Commerce. Greg Toast tried to bribe me. Took the by-election list with Gabriel. Took all my signs. But didn't know the RCMP said run as mayor. We're going to see how bad they want that city. Just as the Liberals want the BC. So the Conservatives are a big threat. You would need the N.D.P and the Liberals to work together, and Todd Stone's the perfect picture with Peter Milobar, to work together to run the Conservatives down and get Uri out, because Uri will not take David Eby's cabinet people, and he won't take Kevin Falcon's cabinet people. And we have Gordon Campbell now wants to speak up and talk about Caroline Elliott when he had for years what the N.D.P was doing, he didn't do it. It's a big mess. Probably going to the N.D.P if David Eby, the N.D.P would fire David Eby, put a new person in charge, the N.D.P might get another term. But David Eby's coming out with, in 2030, we're going to draw trillions of dollars. He couldn't perform now, but trillions of dollars. It's all garbage. A guy that wrote a book, John Rusted said, and Uri said, How to Sue the Police. A lawyer. All of them were lawyers. Ed was a lawyer, Mike DeYoung was a lawyer. If I'm a lawyer, and I go as a politician, it makes my chances better to stay in there. Caroline Elliott has cheated, and Conservatives must know that, because Caroline Finlay kicked her in the teeth. And she should be banned, but David Eby won't ban her because the Liberals were working together. And that is why I was in merit to look at them minds of what Todd Stone got appointed from David Eby as a former Liberal in BC United. Now, I want to acknowledge this. This is the Conservative Mountain. The Federal Conservative EDA is here, which is Pierre Poilievre's, Suk Mangel's EDA. The Federal Conservative EDA is back in the BC Conservatives. That means they're behind Uri, Bruce Banner. Here's what the Liberals running BC Conservatives did. They took it over. They're all in there. If you go look, they're all running the Conservatives. There's not a Conservative in there. They're Liberals. They penetrated that to diminish the party and get it down and take it over. And Todd Stone and all them. And it needs to be called out. And I think Uri has recognized, the same as I did in Abbotsford, I will go after Peter Speranese and the bureaucrats, and I will get your tax dollars back. David Eby realizes he can't cut deals. Instead of attacking poor Dallas Brody about the things she says in the Leader and she demands apology, he couldn't demand an apology of why Todd Stone is the president of these mines, the former party whip of Kevin Falcons, and is hanging on Peter Milobar, your right-hand guy, David Eby. And then you couldn't demand that Caroline Elliott apologize to all BC voters and BC people that keep jobs here of bringing your campaign because you knew Kevin Falcon was with you. We saw it at the federal level there. So here's what took place over the weekends. The Conservative Liberals, the Liberals running the board at the headquarters, what make legislation in all this, no matter who they are phoning the people of Uri's base. Not Uri's, I'll clarify that, Bruce Banman's base. And they're heavy hitters. Let me tell you what a heavy hitter is. They did the research and found out they polled the churches and they poll that and they control the votes, which now you got to not use Vicky Hopes, not use Colin Watts, not use some garbage. You got to convince the voters to do it, and now you need. They're phoning them heavy hitters, and they made this mistake, and they were the EDA, and said we're BC Conservatives, Liberal Conservatives, and we're investigating your membership of fraud that you took with Uri. Then they went and did this. They're really smart. They want that job so bad, Peter Milobar, Caroline Elliott, and Ian Black. They went and made it that your driver's license got to be taken a picture of. Your face has got to have scan and recognition. Well, let me tell you what happened. This will cause Uri to lose 6,000 to 7,000 members. Peter Milobar and Caroline Elliott, we got it now. We jammed them, us liberals jammed them, which now will allow Yuri, not later, but now, to go in front of the court and have the RCMP. Why? Them seniors can't do it. That is why Yuri recognized it like I recognized it and Dallas Brody recognized it. We're gonna scrap that shit. It's a liberal game to control the manipulation so they can control the voters like Henry was doing here. When I get political, I get mean. That means every voter, that's 17,000 that signed up for Yuri, that can't get out, and old 90-year-old granny's gonna phone Yuri and say, I couldn't get out, Yuri. I couldn't do the ID and recognition because the conservative headquarters, which are all run by liberals of Kevin Falcons, did this garbage. I want Yuri and Dallas Brody to have the upper hand on this and say, phone me directly, I will take care of this garbage, and I will find out who was on the end of the phone making this, and I will print their name, and then Mr. Pelican will say, oh, there's another liberal, like Todd Stone. They need to derail that man, and they need to derail him bad. But I was really, with Abbotsford conservatives, really a little upset when I found Peter Milobar is going to drive his ass in my town. I passed here and Henry's hanging with him and liberals are hanging with him, and Todd Stone and Pamela Alexis did this. This is the job that caused it all. If Henry wasn't in his jobs and his lifting is scammy. So we have only 3 true conservatives. Let me name them since Bruce is out. We have Yuri, we have Caroline Finley, which she slapped. Oh man, everybody was so proud. She slapped Caroline Elliott. And that was basically right there and then. And I think Caroline Finley knows by Todd Stone and everything, David Eby is directly holding Elections BC down because the N.D.P will work a deal. I don't think Yuri's going to come in and work a deal. Yuri's going to come in and say, where's the 71 million for my farmers? Why are Abbotsford police threatening? Why are council in Henry's house? Why is this? Why did these homeowners get the... He's going to demand them answers very quickly. And no bureaucrats from the Liberals or the N.D.P are going to stay in the ledge and do this. And this is what's going to take place. And rather than it be addressed properly at the beginning, they figured they could keep outrunning it because it was about the money and the position. One man brought this all onto them all, and his name is Henry Braun, the train tycoon. The train scam, prison, threats, manipulation, lifts, collaborating, lifting jobs, rigging elections, using men in uniforms and everything. A spoiled little brat all his life, never realizing what the end could be, and figured his friends would help him. He's working his ass off between Caroline Elliott and Peter Milobar and Ian Black, playing all 3 sides of the fence, because if they get in as premier, I could cover this all up. Abbotsford conservatives and myself are working very hard to make sure Dallas Brody, Yuri, Bruce Bammett, Caroline Finley all recognize this and know this. So now let me explain something else. Here's where it gets the best, and I figured I would be the man to do it, and I would be the man to call this out for my conservatives. When them liberals they phoned that riding association of the federal conservatives that are supporting the BC conservatives, Yuri, and made them threats. And there's also major written complaints in on Caroline Elliott too. And David Eby knows that. And yet he stands in the ledge and he kicks that poor Dallas Brody because me and the liberals are working together. Me and the liberals. I think David Eby realizes he screwed the N.D.P party. His bluff of trying to get jobs, you can see his sour look. The N.D.P would have to say now, we need a new leader because he's going to crash it like Kevin Falcon did, or Judnit Singh did, and you could see it. Dallas Brody and the true conservatives will got to be looked at how many jobs David Eby's going to rush through and get. And we're looking at people to come in, Dallas Brody, Yuri, and that, and say, where's the 71 million at Barrowtown? Why did Jakes do this garbage, haul of sand in and everything? And guys like David Eby that are lawyers that figure they're smarter than law and smarter than this in their position, like Olenoff did, and Colin Watts did, and Mike Sir did, come back. And they go behind these little things we call bars. And no more favors that the liberals are in charge, I'll look after you, and this is why. But the question is, to Todd Stone, is why are you standing beside Peter Milobar when you're working for David Eby? Why? Because you created alliance unsecretly. And the people on the N.D.P side, Pam was so mad she had to cough it to me. And she said, wow, if Yuri or Dallas Brody or them get that and put it together. And she said, the guy goes even and takes a picture with Peter Milobar showing miners support Peter Milobar construction workers. And David Eby couldn't put a stop to it. But here's another question they asked me to address all conservatives. Kevin Falcon crashed the BC United. He turned his back on liberals that were true liberals, that mingushed over and now. Then used their 1,000, I told you, or their 100,000 contacts he had to try to get them up, to get them to buy members into the BC Conservatives to get behind Caroline Elliott. And they turned on him, that's why Yuri could beat him. He left them hanging and high and dry. He should have stepped away from the party. Caroline Finley would now have to be bribed by Caroline Elliott, which I don't think will happen after she, you know, that B word slapped her. She B-slapped her across the world stage on the stuff in Alberta. She figured she was in charge because she's Kevin Falcon's sister-in-law, and Kevin will get, you get it, the premier will run it. Now Gordon Campbell pipes up, and he's going to get in, I need her, oh, Kevin Falcon, Gordon, if we get her in, she could do some miracles for us. But they're liberals. And they went in to destroy this party and create chaos, working an alliance, in my opinion, with David Eby. That's why their positions, like Todd Stone, got hired onto mines and everything, and he don't care they're taking pictures. I'm sure Pierre Poilievre would not be happy if he saw Suk Mangel cleaning the Prime Minister Carney's house. He wouldn't be happy. And yet Todd Stone is traveling everywhere with Peter Milobar. And they were forcing cabinets. I don't think Yuri would allow that, and neither would Dallas Brody. So they're in for trouble. But here, BC Conservatives, here's what I want you to say. Kevin Falcon ran the BC Liberals in the ground. Turned his back on it all and couldn't get his membership. Kevin Falcon's sister-in-law is Caroline Elliott. Caroline Elliott. Kevin Falcon created the BC United with Caroline Elliott. Kevin Falcon has went on the world stage and claimed that she would be good and everything, and is out phoning everybody to get behind her to no avail because he turned his back on his true friends, his liberals. They're not even going out. They say, yeah, Kevin, we'll buy a membership. And then Kevin's like, oh, she didn't get any more. Yuri got 17,000. He left them high and dry. You didn't even phone. Kevin Falcon is telling you that Caroline Elliott, who brought outside interference, a sign of treason in David Eby's words, and from another province stealing jobs to rig elections and scam, controlled the BC Conservatives with all BC Liberals in it, not allowing the Conservative headquarters to call it out because they're Caroline Elliott's friends and Kevin Falcon's friends, saying she's going to run the province. She's going to govern the province. She's going to be the premier. It would have been fitting, and it would have been justified for Caroline Finley to say Kevin Falcon saw such hope in Caroline Elliott and promised, between all this stuff that she talks about DRIPA and everything else and gives her opinion, but could not recognize her to take over the party that he kicked and put in the ground. He didn't see that she was a leader, she could do good, and she could pull that party. If she could have accomplished anything, she could have took the BC Liberals that he crashed, and he could have excused himself and said, my sister-in-law is going to take it over because she's such a great person. She's such a great person. She's a good person. And give her command of the BC United. He couldn't. But he wants you to believe that she can govern this province because he'll be in the back door, Christy Clark will be in the back door, and Gordon Campbell will be all over it. And Todd Stone will be there, David Eby will be there, and everywhere. But to be the question, the man that is in the ledge has to face Dallas Brody and say like this: why is Todd Stone working for you and with Peter Milobar? That's going to come out because you knew you need to derail Yuri. then you need to ask the question of why is Caroline Elliott allowed to do all this? Because you're looking away from it and you're holding off investigations because the Conservatives are screaming at her, not the N.D.P. It's not David Eby's people making up these things about Caroline Elliott. It's the Conservatives, and it's foolproof. And now you got her wanting to lead this province because you created alliance, in my opinion, but she couldn't run the BC United. And her own brother-in-law recognized that. So he said, you know, look, probably in my opinion, he said, look, you couldn't manage a mouse to put him in the cage. So I won't give you the BC United to pull it up, get Mike de Jong back, get old Rich Coleman, get all them old MLAs, one-lungers that still want to play the games from behind the doors, okay? So, but I'll tell you what you need to do for us. You need to go in and derail the BC Conservative people that are running the true Conservatives because they won't create alliances and take cabinet ministers. And that will send a message to all voters, to Conservative voters. You need to pick up the phone. You need to make Yuri and Dallas Brody and them people aware of the derailment by headquarters of the Conservatives themselves doing it, phoning and calling powerhouses. And you need to make sure Conservatives don't phone and threaten Conservatives that you frauded an election. Anybody, if you signed a member, would hope that, okay, maybe he cheated, but let it go. Maybe nobody will catch it. That'll be a vote. But when you're directly picking the phone up and you're making them phone calls as a Conservative leader of the headquarters to a Conservative people and saying you're going to investigate them for election fraud, it's to derail them so you could help the other three candidates. Caroline Finley now will have to be approached. What is Caroline Elliott going to offer you if you come over? We'll fire Todd Stone. You could be hired all at your minds. Then what's Peter Milobar going to offer you? Well, Caroline Finley, you become the Deputy House Minister and the Deputy Premier. And what is Ian Black going to offer you? Well, Ed's got ties, Ed could do this. Oh, you could be ahead of mine. You could probably be Minister of Ag and everything. But what BC voters offer Caroline Finley is her dignity, her respect, her honesty, as to say a Conservative will stand with a Conservative and you won't walk the floor. What you did to Caroline Elliott on the world stage was one of the highest respected things that Conservatives could say. But you need to stay true to your Conservatives, and you need to make sure what Kevin Falcon couldn't recognize his own sister-in-law and what has took place needs to stop on voters and their rich elite, and the alliance between Liberals and N.D.P. is going to end. And it puts it in black and white when you travel the mines and you go look at Todd Stone. Todd Stone, the party whip. And what was happening? Peter Milobar gets in. Hey, Todd, you're coming back. I'm going to put you in charge of not just the mines, the highways, probably the billions of dollars of infrastructures, everything. I talked to Henry in Abbotsford. The question is to David Eby, why is your mining person running around with Peter Milobar and taking pictures and supporting Peter Milobar? And why is the party, BC United party former whip of Kevin Falcon's with Peter Milobar working for you? And why is Kevin Falcon not calling a press conference and saying why he did not give the remains of that garbage company that he pushed in the ground to his sister-in-law to run? Because even though the company was completely collapsed and garbage, he knew she couldn't even run that. But he's going to tell you she can run the province. Caroline Elliott has messed up, and she messed up big. But she's well protected because of Kevin Falcon, Gordon Campbell, the alliance with David Eby, Peter Milobar, Todd Stone, and they're hoping that they can run her through the door to get her in. There's three people that needed to hear this today. One was Caroline Finley, two was Dallas Brody, and three was Yuri. I'm live, Abbotsford resident, Abbotsford, British Columbia, Abbotsford.